and jump in to today's session. If you have not joined us for the rest of the week, we've said that we know that you were kind of thrown into some odd things back in the spring. And, you know, I know several people that said they just handed me a computer and I didn't know what to do with it. We never really used Chromebooks before. We're not used to doing this. Go ahead and jump. So we're trying to give you the tools and the tips that would be helpful for you right now. And just to give some basics that you might not have had a chance to learn in the past. So that's what we're about today. Our digital learning team is made up of me. I'm Nancy Watson, and on the left there is Catherine Laster, and in the middle, Misty Trevino. And Catherine will be helping in the chat at the first, and then Catherine and I will swap, and it will be her turn to talk, and I'll be doing the chat. So we've also said every day that we use these terms interchangeably. So sometimes you might hear the term G Suite. That's typically the education version of all the Google products. Google Apps is another thing that you might hear. Google Tools. Anytime that we say those things, those terms for us at least are used kind of interchangeably. So if you hear Google Tools and you're not sure what that means, it's the same as Google Apps or G Suite. And today and tomorrow, we're going to be focusing on Google Classroom. Today is really for people who have never had a chance to use Google Classroom in the past. It is going to be very slow paced and very basic. So I bet a lot of you right now are going, thank goodness, right? So here is our format for today. This is a show and tell. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a walkthrough for Google Classroom, and then I'll hand it off to Catherine. And sometimes we like to give you things to do during a session like this, or we'll have you kind of play along. But these 5 Google at R10 sessions are all a show and tell kind of demo. So we encourage you to ask any questions that come up in the chat, and we'll also have time for questions at the end. So if you would prefer to maybe, you know, like see us and ask a question with your microphone, that would be great to do at the end. Catherine will be interrupting me if there are any questions that need addressing along the way, and I'll do the same for her. We suggest that you have something handy to jot down any kind of questions or things that you want to be sure to remember to try out. So if you have a piece of paper handy or something, it might be a good idea to be prepared with that in case we say something that would be noteworthy. All of our webinars this week are being recorded to YouTube, and then we post them to this playlist. So that is bit.ly/Google at R10 webinars. And notice that the G in Google and the R in R10 are capitalized. We will be recording these and posting them to that playlist within a day. And Catherine had the idea to do the chapter headings. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like. When you go to a particular video from that playlist, you will be able to click the Show More option. And when you do that, you can scroll down and you can see the recording details. So we've gone in after the fact and added timestamps for the different things that we cover during the webinars. So that means that you don't have to sit and listen to the whole thing if you really just want to know about how to upload a folder or whatever it is that we happen to talk about. So Today, we're talking about Google Classroom. The address for Google Classroom is, like many things in Google, classroom.google.com. And Classroom is a great way to communicate with your students and their families. There are options for one-way communication where maybe you just share your syllabus or your contact information. Google Classroom is protected by your school's domain. So that means that only teachers and students who have an email address similar to the school that you're working in would be able to log in to the Google Classroom. So irvingisd.net, I believe, is a domain. And sometimes the teachers and the students have different domains, but they're similar. So I know, for example, in Plano, teachers' domain names are pisd.edu and student domain names are mypisd.net. But those two domains would be the only domains that would be allowed to log into the classroom. And what that does is it prevents parents or other people outside of your school community from joining the classroom. There are options for parents to receive guardian summaries. That is not something that we will talk about today. That will come up tomorrow. The Google Classroom will create folders for you. So we'll show a little bit about that today and tomorrow about how Google Classroom helps keep you organized. And if there are any administrators out there, I want you to kind of keep in mind that this is a great opportunity to have a faculty page or maybe a PLC group. And when teachers have the opportunity to be students in the classroom, I think that is often very helpful for them being able to help their students navigate the classroom, because it is a little bit different view from teacher to student. And it is tough sometimes because teachers don't really get to see what is in what the student view looks like. Okay, so I am going to escape out of this presentation and I am going to go to my classes page, and you can see up here that I have the address classroom.google.com plus a couple of random characters after that. I have logged in to the classroom with my Region 10 account. The very first time that you log in, it will probably ask you if you are a teacher or a student. So be sure that if you've never logged in before, you say that you're a teacher, and I'll tell you why about that in just a minute. I have several classes on here. Some of these classes, I am a teacher. I know that I am a teacher because my picture does not appear on my particular, on the classes where I am the boss of the class. This one though, Catherine is the boss of the class and I am a student in the class. And I also wanted to call to your attention that Catherine over here is also the boss of this class. She has invited me to that class, but I have not joined it yet. I would need to click this join button in order to join her classroom. So again, I'm pointing this out because this is one way of adding students to your class, and we will talk about that some more in just a minute. On the bottom of these tiles, you'll see that on the ones where I'm a boss, When I hover over this little kind of lightning bolt looking thing, it says open gradebook for, and then the class. So I can go straight to the gradebook as a teacher. I can also go straight to the folder in my Google Drive where this class, files from this class reside. Okay, so that is my folder, and I will show you that a little bit more in just a minute as well. While we're still on this page, I want to call to your attention that I can click anywhere inside of the tile and I can reorder these. So it's kind of nice because sometimes I might want my classes in order of the class period. Sometimes I might want them in alphabetical order, or I might want to group all of the ones where I'm a teacher and then all of the ones where I'm a student below that. So that is possible to do. Catherine has said every day that whenever you see 3 dots, you want to click that. So I'll just show you quickly. If I click on the 3 dots, I have the option of editing this class, moving it around. I can do that just by clicking and dragging. I can copy this entire class. So if I get a class the way I like it, I don't have to start completely from scratch if there's another class that I want to make look just like that one. And then this button, or this option right here, is to archive the class. I think we talked a couple of days ago about the trash from our Google Drive and how there's sort of a holding place trash before you take it all the way to the dumpster. That's kind of the same thing as archiving the class. And when I want to find my archived classes, that is going to be from this main menu up here with the 3 lines. And when I click on that, here's another list of all of the classes. And then down here at the bottom, there is a list of my archived classes. So I want to start a completely new class. I'm going to click on the plus sign up here. And if you remember just a minute ago, I told you you needed to be sure to say that you're a teacher when you go to Google Classroom for the first time. Sometimes you might be joining a PLC group or a group that your principal selected, and you might say, well, I'm kind of a student in that class, so you might have said that you were a student. If you click on the plus sign and you only have the option to join the class, that means that Google Classroom thinks that you are a student. And the only person that can untangle that for you is your district's or your school's IT person. So normally it's an easy fix and it just takes an email. But if you have the problem where you are seeing only join class, it means that you are a student in that class and you are, we can't help you with that. We will sympathize if you call us, but we can't do anything about that. Only your IT person can do that. All right, I am going to click Create Class. And I'll just call this Thursday, July 30th class. That's the only thing on this page that is required. If I were going to, maybe this was going to be my algebra class, I might give the section name as first period or second period, that kind of thing. But I don't have to add anything else other than the class name. When I have that class created or have it named, I will click on Create. And it takes just a few seconds, and it's thinking hard about making a new class for me. This is my brand new Google Classroom class with absolutely nothing in it. So in this area up at the top, this is sort of a decorative place, but it does have the code for the class, which I'll talk about in just a minute. It has a place where you can create a link for Google Meet. Over here, I can select a different theme. So I used to be a librarian. I kind of dig these books on here, but just to show you what some of the themes are, I can look through here. Maybe I want an other category, and there's different categories. So if you teach, maybe you teach some visual arts classes or a gaming class or shop, they have different kinds of headers that you can use depending on what your subject is. So Catherine, if she were creating a class, would likely come in here to the math and science one. I am more of the English person, and I actually really like books and computers. So I'll just pick that one and I'll say select class theme. And then it automatically changes that for me. I can also upload my own photo. Up at the top, there are, let me move this little thing out of the way. You can see that there are 4 tabs here: stream, classwork, people, and grades. The first page that you come into is called the stream. And it's kind of like a Facebook page. Anything that you post in the classwork page will show up on the stream page unless you do something that I'm going to suggest to you. That can get this stream page pretty junky and have to scroll a lot through to find the particular classwork assignment that you might be looking for. So I'll show you how to stop that in just a minute. I can say a welcome message here, and that's a nice thing that will stay there even when I turn off this other aspect. The classwork page is where most of the action takes place. This is where you will be creating assignments and materials, and I'll come back to this page in just a minute. The people page is where you can add additional people into your class. You can add another teacher as a co-teacher, and you can add students. So I want you to think back to where I showed you that Catherine had invited me to be a student in her class, and it had the word join on the tile. If you teach elementary school and you want to be kind of ready to go on the first day of school, maybe you only have somewhere between 18 and 25 student names to type in. You could click this button right there and type in the email addresses of your students. And then when they went to their main Google Classroom page, all they would have to do is click on the join button. You're not going to want to do that if you teach secondary and you've got 130 kids' email addresses to wade through. But I am going to click right here and invite Catherine to be a co-teacher in my class, because she's going to pick up where I leave off in just a few minutes here, and then it'll be easier because we'll be talking about the same class. So I will click invite, and maybe she will show you when it gets to be her turn what it looks like if you are a teacher who has received the invitation to join the class. Grades right now will be completely uninteresting because we have no people and we have no grades in our class. But going along the top here, I want to call your attention to the gear. We've talked about the gear in several of the other applications this week. And this has a lot of things that are super helpful for you that are not terribly obvious if you don't remember to click on that gear. So we have the class details. If you'll remember, these were the same questions that were asked when I first was creating the class. So if I decide that I want to change the name of the class, I can do that here. I can add descriptions and sections and so on after the fact in this area also. The class code is what you would want to give to your students if you do have, like, a bunch of students and you don't want to type in the address yourself of each individual email address. And one of the things that I like about this class code is when I click here, I can choose to display this really big, which would be awesome if you had a screen and you were at the front of your classroom and all of your kids were sitting in the classroom with you. That would make it a lot easier to see, right? When you are doing this remotely, this is still kind of nice because it makes it nice and big and obvious what the class code is. But another thing that you might do is click and just copy this code so that you can paste it into an email. And maybe the email is going to parents, or maybe that is going to go in a school newsletter. So you can copy that class code. Another thing that you can do here is to reset this code. This code is actually pretty nice because there are no ambiguous characters and it doesn't spell out anything that looks like it might be a naughty word. But every once in a while, you'll get a series of characters and you're like, oh, I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. Or you'll get one and you can't tell if it's a capital I or a lowercase l or a numeral 1. In that case, I would probably choose to reset the code. This is also what you can do if maybe, like a naughty older sibling has gotten a hold of the class code and is keeps coming in the class to cause mischief and trouble. You can reset that code after you kick the kid out, and then the student would not be able to use this particular code to get back into the classroom again. This happened several years ago when there was like a Saturday morning club event at a school, and the teacher that was donating her classroom for that Saturday had her Google Classroom code up at the top, and several students that were from other schools thought, oh, that'll be fun. I'll just join her classroom and I'll see if I can mess around a little bit. She was able to kick those students out and then reset the code, and they were not able to join again. So this stream option right here, you can see that the default is that students can post and comment. This is the stream, which is that very first page. And at the beginning of the year, I would definitely suggest that you turn this to only teachers can post or comment. If you leave that so that students can post and comment, at worst, you're going to get some, students thinking that they can just say whatever they want to, and maybe it's mean, or maybe they're going to put some bad words up there. At best, you might get a bunch of students who say, hi, sup, hello, and that kind of thing, and it just clutters up the stream. So until you've had a chance to talk with your students about what would be appropriate to post and comment, I would suggest leaving it at only teachers can post or comment. And another option is that students can comment, meaning they can respond to you, but they can't start their own comments, okay? Classwork on the stream, right now, this default is set to show condensed notifications. And that's what I was saying can get kind of junky on the stream. It's a little bit better to have it this way than show attachments and details, because this will show everything. But Catherine and I both prefer the hide notifications option here, because that's going to keep the stream, that very first page, it's going to keep it a lot cleaner, and you'll still be able to post your good morning messages, but you won't see all of that extra stuff that people might have to scroll quite a ways to get through. We're not going to be spending any time talking about Google Meet today. That's its own webinar. And then grade calculation, again, is not something that we can easily show when we don't have any students or grades in there. So we're not going to be covering that today. Most of the time in Google, it just automatically saves for you. This is one place where you do have to click the save button up here at the top right before exiting this screen. All right, I'm going to come in here to Classwork, and I am going to just show you briefly the kinds of assignments that you can make. And then I'm going to show you the class drive folder, and then I'm going to turn it over to Catherine. So on Classwork, when I click create, there are several different choices of things that you can send out to your students from this button. The first is an assignment. The second is a quiz assignment. I have not used it, and rumor has it, it is a little bit clunky and uncooperative, so we're not going to spend any time talking about this one today. You can ask your students a question. You can push out material, that would be like if you had your contact information on a document, or if you have a syllabus, something that is static and unlikely to change would be considered material. And then you can also organize all of these posts by topic. We will not be covering reusing a post, but that would be if you wanted to copy a post from a previous class. We are assuming that you're just getting started, and so you probably won't have a lot of posts that will need reusing. But it is possible to go back and borrow a post and repost it from a previous class. The last thing that I am going to touch on before I hand it off to Catherine is the class drive folder. And this is really one of the nicest things about Google Drive, because your students will find it very, very difficult to lose work. In the class drive folder, I will click on it, and you'll see that it opens up my drive. So in my drive, I am currently in the name of this class within the classroom folder, which is within my drive. I did not create this classroom folder, nor did I create this Thursday, July 30th class folder. When I go back to the classroom folder, you'll see that you might recognize some of the names of the classes that you saw on my homepage. Some of these classes have now been archived. But as an example, I taught this class this summer, All Students Succeed with Universal Design for Learning. When I open up that folder, there were 3 assignments. One was a deeper dive into the UDL guidelines. One was the final reflection, and one was the UDL lesson. When I open up this folder, not that one, how about this one? When I open up the folder for that class, I can see the names of all of the students who were in that class. And I can go in here at any point to check on their progress and to give them feedback while they might be working on one of these assignments. So all of that Google Classroom did for me, and I did not have to do any of the work for that. So that is something that makes all of our lives a lot easier. And I know that a lot of people don't know that this classroom folder is created for you. I also know that sometimes people will look at their drive and they will say, classroom, I don't know what that folder is. I'm going to delete that folder. Don't do that. You want to keep that folder in there. If you have put it in the trash, it is possible to just undelete it and bring it back. But you're going to want to have that classroom folder because it is so helpful in keeping track of not only your students' documents, but also your work as well. All right, Catherine, I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass it off to you. And I hope that that was a good stopping point. So
I have a question.
Go.
So when I create the document, I go to the little plus sign that's in the top right, to start to create the document.
When you create the class?
The class, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes. And if you don't see the create class option, you need to contact your IT person.
And that's when I make sure that I push that I'm a teacher, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you only have to tell it you're a teacher one time.
Mm-hmm.
So after you have said that, the very first time, you'll never see that message again. Okay.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say I want to upload work from like a curriculum like Texas Go Math. How would I do that? Upload the work from my Texas Go Math to my Google Classroom.
I think that's where Catherine is going to pick up, and we'll show you how to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You
May I
bet.
ask a question also?
Sure.
Okay, so I know you said earlier when you're adding students, if you have, say, more than 20, you wouldn't want to do it. What I'm asking is, if I have 4 math classes, how would I enter that? And do I want to use a separate folder for each of them, or what do you suggest for that?
So you're going to create different classes, and I think Catherine will probably touch on this, but this is something that we will be going more in depth in tomorrow. But I would not suggest, like if you teach algebra and you have 6 different sections, I would definitely not say have all 130 of those kids in that one class.
Okay.
You would create 6 different sections for that class. And then if you're teaching algebra, you would say, here is the code, please join my class. You wouldn't want to type in their names. That would be too much work for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question. Oh, hello?
Go ahead.
How do you delete old classrooms? Classes.
So that was from the threads at the top. You're looking at Catherine's page right now. If you remember, I showed this toward the beginning. There are 3 dots, and when you click on those, one of the options is archive.
Okay.
And that's how you would get it off.
So it just goes to the archives. Okay.
Correct. And then it just kind of sits there and it doesn't bother anybody. And it's always nice if you want to go, because like invariably the minute I delete something for good, I realize that was the one thing that I needed more than anything in the world, right? So, all right, Catherine, turn, girl.
Okay, so I will pick up where Nancy left off, and then we'll leave a little bit extra time for questions today since we've had some. And then Nancy, there were a few questions in the chat that I did not get to, so if you will jump into that, please. So remember that Nancy invited me as a co-teacher, and you can see this is what the tile looks like where it says you are invited to teach this class. So I am going to accept that. And as a co-teacher, I have all of the privileges as the teacher, except I am not allowed to archive the class. And so if you have inclusion teachers, or if you are working with a cohort group, then setting each other as co-teachers might be a great option for you to share resources and see what the students are doing. So I'm going to pick up on the classwork page, and Nancy walked you through the different types of assignments. So we had a couple of questions where people were asking, what can you put in material in the assignments? Here's this opportunity. So if I'm thinking about the first week of school and I was a secondary math teacher, yay math. So I want to think about what would I share with my students virtually on the first day of school. So typically I would have a handout with our syllabus, our guidelines, class expectations, those kinds of things. That's not anything that the students would need to interact with, and I want them to be able to refer to it all the time. So I'm going to call this material. So this is not anything that students will have to turn in, but this will just be resource or reference. So I click material, and I will call this my course. I noticed yesterday, Nancy, when I was listening to the recording, I typed very loudly, so it comes up on YouTube. Sorry about that. And let's see, course guidelines 2021. So that title is required, and then the description, I recommend that you put some context in there, but you do not have to put anything for the description. Please see our course guidelines for all policies, ... So I have already created my course guidelines page, and it is maybe on my Google Drive, or it could be something that is a file that I upload. So if I click Google Drive, it will allow me to upload items. So anything you have in your drive. And then if I have a file, this is just like anything from your, inserting from your Google Drive again, or upload. So browse on your computer. And then Russell asked about videos, so you can even include a video. So if you wanted to create, for instance, a welcome video, then you can do this, but the video has to be from YouTube. So that would be, instead of doing a video from YouTube, you may have a video in your Google Drive, or a video on your desktop. So let's see, I'll go ahead and just add something so you can see what this looks like. And I will add whatever is recent here. Here is our slide deck. So I click on what I want. As we saw in Nancy's Google Drive explanation on Monday, you can look at the list view or grid view. So I'm a list kind of person. So when I add this material, it allows me to, this is going to be view only. The other thing I could do is I could create something from scratch. And so when it says create, this will open up all of your Google Doc options. So you could create on the fly docs, slides, and so on. for part over on the screen, this tells me where I want it posted. We'll go into more of this tomorrow, but you are able to post in multiple classes. We'll talk about this tomorrow. And then we can also have topics. So that's all you need to do to post some material. And then I'm going to go ahead and post it now. But if I wanted to keep working on it a bit, there is a pull down arrow to the right of post, and it allows me to schedule something for later, or save this and come back to it later, or post immediately. So I like to sometimes schedule things. I can get ahead one day in the week and then just schedule things out to post on that particular day. So I'm going to post it though. And it will take a second. And oh, here's my reminder that I can add a topic. Okay, so here's my material. And then when I click on it, you can see the details and you can see the slide deck. But I always recommend from the teacher point, if you say view material, this looks a little bit closer to what the students see. So you can sort of check to see the look of it from the student's perspective. Okay, let me add one assignment so you can see the difference. So I'm going to say our slides for day 1, and then please read over the slides and turn in when complete. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing, and you notice the buttons look the same where I can add and create. So I'm going to, and we'll show this again tomorrow as well, but I'm going to add that same slide deck if it will open. There we go. Insert. And then here is, and I saw this in a couple of questions. What do you want the students to do with this material? View, or do you want them to edit? If this is a Google Doc, they can all collaborate. Or do you want this like a template and each person has a unique copy? If I'm asking you just to look over my course materials for the first week of school, I'm just going to say view. I can continue adding as many things as I want here. And again, I can create something on the fly if I wanted. So this looks just like the materials. But with the assignment, notice I have a few other options. And I, again, can post for different classes, for different students. I can have points. And then I can create due dates, topics. This is new. They have originality checkers, all kinds of extra features for an actual assignment. Just like the previous material, I can assign, or I can schedule it, or I can just save this as a draft, or I can just trash it. Okay, so if I want to schedule this post, then I can say, instead of today, I want to post it on Monday at 8 a.m. And you can change those times and then schedule it. So on my side, I see kind of this grayed out icon that tells me, and it shows here that this post is scheduled for August 3rd, and it allows me to edit rather than view because I am not showing this to students yet. Okay. Let's see, Nancy, why don't we save the rest? I think that's enough. Do we want to save the rest for tomorrow?
Yes, and we have 2 questions that I think you might be able to answer quickly.
Okay.
One of the questions is, can you just show what it looks like to add a video? What would that process look like?
Okay. So if I go to my, for instance, course guidelines, and I'm going to zoom in a bit. If I hover over again, 3 vertical dots, click, this allows me to edit my assignment. So here's my assignment, and I want to add a video. So what I looked for yesterday, something safe, was kid president. So if I search that, and then here's my video. So that will post here. You do have to save it. And so when you view the material, you see both of the icons here, and then the video would open. Okay. What
And
else?
then the other question that we have here is, will parents be able to pull assignments? And which is always a tricky question to answer. So do you want to,
Mhm.
I was going to say we'll probably touch on that tomorrow, but I also
Mhm.
didn't want to ignore the question if you've got a nice,
Mhm.
easy way to answer that.
So, and we alluded, Alice Keeler is really my go-to for Google Classroom. And in a dream world, you would, and digital citizenship, Nancy, you would not share your login and the password with your parents if you were probably an older student. But instead, the parent would sit beside you and look over your shoulder as you were completing the assignments. If the parent has the student's login information, then the parent would be looking at the classroom as a student and posting as a student. And so everything is, that's why Google has protected Classroom. Just the people in your school district are able to access Google Classroom. So if you give the parent the login information, they can access everything, and that's appropriate for the littles. So that's my 2 cents. Nancy, do you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, no, nicely done. And we will talk briefly tomorrow maybe about the guardian summaries. So I would encourage you to have your parents sign up for the guardian summaries, because they can still get their kids' email address and log in, but that does, cause some problems. And you want to encourage your parents to just be looking at the summaries that will say, your student this week completed these 3 assignments, but is still missing this one. So, yeah.
Okay, anything else? Well, well, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was mumbling to myself as I was reading
Okay.
the question. Is there a way we can be a student in our own class so we can try the assignment as they see it? Such a good question. And I know that has been asked and begged for by members of the Google Classroom community. And I would suspect that it's something that's probably in progress, but it is really tough to see unless you have a student login. It is hard to see what that looks like, but we're going to give you a little homework. So we're gonna see if you can maybe try this with a friend. I'll let Catherine talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So we have not given any homework all week, but especially for those who are interested and have signed up for tomorrow's class, we thought this would be a good place for you to start. So we encourage you to start playing in Classroom. So start a new class, create a new class, click that plus sign. And if you're thinking about really what you want to do for your first week of school, then get that set up, or if you just want to play class like we did, call it play and delete later. Nancy showed you how to change your header, so find a header that you like with the theme and the colors. And then we did not go over the topics today, but this is a way that you can really keep your classroom well organized. So think about the things that you will post when you're starting small, some things that you want to share with your students or what that's going to look like. So just take a minute and think, do you work by units? Are you going to work by weeks? Do you work by chapters? Those kinds of things. So just kind of reflect on how you want to organize your classroom. Explore the settings, click that gear, look at those settings. And then we encourage you to invite a friend in your district to be a co-teacher so you can practice on each other and look at each other's classroom. And this is really the way to be well, one, to kind of check your work, but also to see what it looks like from a different perspective. And so if you invite another teacher as a student, then you can see the student side, or you can invite the co-teacher so you can both collaborate. And then finally, one of Nancy's favorite norms is to click fearlessly. You can always undo, you can always go back, you can delete. So you're not going to break the Google. So just click around and see what you get. So this is our challenge, and especially for tomorrow. And we are going to have a little bit shorter amount of content, and so we have a lot more time for Q&A tomorrow. So for Friday, we're going to keep going with the classroom, and if you've had an opportunity to actually play, then you'll be able to see what we're saying and then come with those questions. All right.
So a couple of other questions that we've had. The student turning in the assignment, we will probably touch on tomorrow. And I realized that I said that when I was talking about the class drive folders, that your view as the teacher is different from what the students see. So you can see all of the students' work. They can only see their own work. So they would, you can take a peek into their folder, but until they turn it into you, which we'll try to demonstrate tomorrow, then you would not, that's the way that they would turn it into you. So I hope that that answered that question. And then there was another one that, so we'll talk about the student work going into your drive. If you're a co-teacher and on the classroom, the student work is probably still going to go into your drive, and you just kind of need to, it's like keeping that closet closed. Just don't look in there. It'll be fine. There was one other question. So how do I go up just a little bit here? Yeah, so you can add a student's Gmail address to practice. The one thing that I would say is, like, if there's something that you want students to be able to do the very first time they log in, once you log in as that student, then they wouldn't see that option. If you were saying, look for the join button, for example, if you've already logged in as them, they're not going to see that join button. So sometimes that can get confusing.
What was that question? Did it say Gmail address though, or was it a student?
It said by using a Gmail address, and then it also, I think I saw one about not being able to log in. So you do have to be in your school email or your school Google account and your school Chrome account. And we talked about that on Monday. So if you are using a Gmail Chrome account, you need to switch over to using your school Chrome account, and then you should be able to log into your Google Classroom.
quick question about the stream. So when you are posting materials and things on your Google Classroom and they appear in that stream and they're active and they're being disseminated to students, on their end, do the students see virtually the same kind of visual that you're seeing, like the thumbnails to videos, the descriptions of assignments, like the format that it's in on your stream that you can look at? Are they looking at that same visual?
Whoops, you saw my bot joy thing. I'm trying to show my classroom to show you. Okay. Yes, Russell, to answer the question. I think I'm a student in another class. So let me. So here I'm a student. So I don't have the only thing, I don't have the grades tab as a student. And then under the classwork tab, then here are the topics, which we'll go over to. And then here she's got some links, and then you've got those thumbnails. And then if I click view assignment as the student, I see all of the text, and then here's where I can mark it as done. So looks the same-ish.
Perfect. Okay. So I was just making sure they're not seeing something completely different and arranged in a different way then.
Not too much.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, Nancy, I'll turn off the streaming.